Okay, so quick thing, guys. Something that might help you guys out on this is that you can turn letters into shapes. One thing that's really important about this step makes it not a letter, so you cannot change the letter or change the font after you do it. So make sure when you start that you choose a letter and font that you actually do want to work with. So once you do this, it's no longer a letter, you can't change the font. So I'm just going to start with the G because that's what it is. So letters don't have the same rules as shapes. For instance, I can't erase part of this, I can't really change the lines on it. So it's pretty limited. If I want to change it like a shape, I can turn it into a shape. To turn something into shape is as easy as right-clicking and saying convert to curves. You'll notice it now has shape commands rather than letter commands. I can no longer make a font, for instance. I can no longer change its size. However, now it is a exact shape. So I can still do things like change the fill. For instance, I can make it transparent. I can give it a line. You can see that. But now I can actually manipulate it very easily. The white tool is how you manipulate a lot of details about shapes. So for instance, I can start erasing part of my shape if I want to adapt it. Well, not quite an E, but I can make it a different shape. So how I did that was I clicked each of the individual nodes and then pressed delete. You can, of course, also move the different ones. So if you want to, for instance, make it look like it's dripping, you can now do that. But notice some things are a little bit hard to do exactly, because when you move one curve, it moves the ones next to it. So one quick way to do that, just remove those curves if you're having trouble. Questions? What's up? Can I make a fish out of that? No. Can I make a fish in general? Yeah. Sure, there's many different ways to try a fish. So some quick tips for fish if you want to do fish shapes. I like to do scales. So scales are really just circles in different colors. So if I make a circle, you can repeat that circle shape and just offset it a little bit to make it look like a scale. So let me actually do that. And I can just repeat that. So I'm just copying both of those. And you can make a scale pattern like that pretty easily. You could. I'm just doing something really quick. So if I want to be really detailed oriented, I would just use my color changer, make it slightly darker. And then I'd just overlap them ever so slightly. And you'll start getting a kind of a scale pattern that way. You can then build them up. I'm going to do these in twos because that's easier. And just keep on layering it until you start getting something that looks more like a fish shape. Probably do it like that. And send it back. It gets a little bit tricky. Yeah, this is getting slightly messy. I'll redo that. So I'm just layering them over and trying to get kind of a scale pattern. Then I might shrink it down. Whoops, I need all of it. And then I put it in a fish shape. I'm trying to think of some good shapes you could use for a fish shape.
Triangle. An oval and a triangle.
An oval and a triangle would probably work. Turn it to its side. I just grab, you can do similar things with shapes. If I convert to curves, I can then use my white tool and then I can make the sides a little bit more circular like that.
How do you make those
And then I can get rid of that. And then shove these into that layer. And then move that up. Actually, I'd probably make it even smaller and then just repeat that layer. One thing I'm not happy about is just how they're not standing out, so I may actually go back in. I may actually go back in and redo that pattern, but let me see how it looks when we fill it up. Move it back. Does that kind of look like fish scale, guys? Or do I?
You look like a whale.
And then I just go take an oval, put it at the front, try to match it up in size. That's a little bit big. Try to match it up with size to get ahead. Probably make it a different color. And then like give it an eye. And then you just add tails and things like that. But that's like the basics of a fish body. But remember, you can make a lot of things out of your basic shapes. This was just a bunch of circles. Remember, you can make things pretty fancy by just layering things over each other. Questions, comments, confusions? Okay. I'm going to start circulating. I'm going to pause.